After the frenzy of the TV series, a remaster for the PlayStation 4, and even a PC port that almost changed the game to the crash of us, here we are, 11 years later. Yes, 11 years since its original release for the Grill Station 3. A decade has passed, but the question remains, does The Last of Us still hold up after all this time? The version I played was the remake for the PlayStation 5, where I played in performance mode, prioritizing maximum frames per second. You are on the Recodes channel, so come with me to find out whether this remake does, or does not, make sense to keep this game up to date. Graphics and details, a new coat of paint on an old canvas. Let's start by talking about the greatest asset of this remake, its stunning graphics. Let's be honest, when you think on The Last of Us on PlayStation 3 or even PS4, nostalgia tends to trick you into thinking not much has changed. But my friend, what we have here is a colossal leap in visual detail. The textures, the details in the face, the lighting, it's as if the game underwent a rejuvenation treatment. Now you can see Joel holding real objects, turning them in his hands, and you can read every detail on what he's holding. When picking up items in the environment, he might even bump into nearby objects, knocking them over. Something that simply didn't exist in the original version. But it is enough? The answer for this is a bit bittersweet, because despite the impressive visuals, it's still just a graphical upgrade. The scope of the game hasn't been expanded, it remains tied to the design limitations of a PS3 title. You're playing with a PlayStation 5 graphics, but still carrying the DNA of a PS3 game. At best, it's a premium remaster. Sure, there are cool additions like the weapon workbench, inherited from part 2, but nothing that truly expands the essence of the game, and that's definitely a con. Even with improved graphics, if you put this remake side by side with the remastered version of the second game, part 2 looks and feels like a more evolved, open, and even fun game when it comes to exploring. It wasn't a great decision to stick to the same scope as the original, as it feels like you are playing the same game but with a new outfit and a bit of glitter. The remake is a beautiful re-release, but doesn't dare to innovate. Still, the landscapes are gorgeous, the details are rich, but you won't feel like you're playing something entirely new, especially if you've played the original countless times like me. It still looks and feels like an old dated game. Not as dated as it could be, but still a dated game. Gameplay. Familiar, but with a touch of deja vu. The gameplay, my friend, remains what we know and love. But let's be honest, The Last of Us has never been pure survival horror. Not in the classic sense like Resident Evil. It's an action-adventure game with hints of resource management and some surprising horror elements. Who doesn't remember the first time they heard the sound of a clicker getting closer? That's an impact that left its mark on gaming pop culture. Anyone who lived through the game's original release can recognize those sounds. Even someone who doesn't play video games can know this sound. When I started playing the remake, it felt very good, but also very familiar. Mainly because the original has already been replayed by me, and probably by you, countless times. Then came Beasttown, and suddenly, the game started to grow on me again. I rediscovered this journey, even with a few small bugs. Yeah, it's not perfect, don't get me wrong. The original had its fair share of strange glitches. Remember Joe doing a T-pose to scare enemies? Well, at least we don't have that here. But the black sky bug? Yeah, that still happens. A lot. The mighty PS5 should shine, but at times it falls short. And I believe that's not the console's fault, but rather a lack of care from the developers. It's hard not to compare this remake to the technical masterpiece that was The Last of Us Part 2, which managed to run impressively on a 2013 console. They made those lips work on a 2013 console. Now, about this beauty here, DualSense. How does it perform in this game? Well, on a scale of 0 to 10, where 0 is for games that don't use it at all, like PS4 games, and 10 is for games that use DualSense wonderfully, like the Astro franchise and Ghostwire Tokyo, The Last of Us Part 1 falls squarely in The Last of Us Part 1 category. It's okay, it doesn't disappoint, but it doesn't amaze either. There are triggers that tighten when you aim to shoot, and there's decent tension when you use the bow. But aside from that, the controller only reacts to rain and snow. That left me feeling a bit meh, since I was hoping to feel the weight of Joe's punches or the impact of smashing someone with a plank. But I didn't get that. What a shame. Leaving the gameplay topic behind, let's talk about the soundtrack. Oh, this one is untouchable, man. Simply perfect. It knows how to be discreet when necessary, going completely silent during action, and stealth scenes, leaving you in pure suspense. And in the dramatic moments, it works beautifully. Have you ever tried going on a punching spree with Joe while loud rock music plays in the background? It doesn't work, does it? That's because it doesn't belong in the survival and silence environment you're immersed in. The brilliant composer Gustavo Santaolalla orchestrated the score in such a unique way that you feel every string vibrating, every chord touching your soul, enhanced by the sound team that gives you chills when an enemy is about to spot you. The use of exotic instruments and unconventional techniques to create sounds is a spectacle in itself. You know that moment when you stop and think, man, I better be careful here, let me crouch and figure out what to do, just from hearing the sound of a clicker? That's exactly what he managed to capture. To understand the importance of sound in video games, I will point you to God of War and the crazy things they do to produce every effect. It's more than just good music, it's the creation of a sonic universe that pulls you in. The audio in The Last of Us isn't just a compliment, it's an extension of the narrative itself. And my friend, what a narrative it is. The story of this game is the heart, the pure heart that never ages. And now, we come to the true core of The Last of Us series, its story. This is where it truly shines. This is where it remains timeless. The narrative, the dialogues, the chemistry between Joel and Ellie, it's a masterpiece. The dialogues, the scene construction, the raw emotion that overflows from every cut, it's out there, untouched. I admit that before revisiting this remake, I was skeptical. Would the story still move me like it did before? The answer is a resound yes. In fact, with maturity, every scene, every line resonated even deeper. Watching Joe and Ellie interact is like witnessing something that only gets better with time. The relationship between the two is the soul of this game, and no matter how many times you've seen it or played it, there's always something new to feel, a new meaning to discover, especially as life changes us, matures us, shape us. The Last of Us always has a new meaning for you to find. Not necessarily because the directors are genius and they packed a trillion meanings into one scene like a Bible verse. No, it's because art just plays with you. You have various different interpretations based on the same scene, which not even the creator of that scene intended to show you. The Last of Us isn't just a story about survival. It's about love, loss, and sacrifice. It's about human nature, and the cherry on top for me is Joe Miller. I've always liked the character, but now I absolutely love him. Joe, in just one game, managed to be as captivating, memorable, and deep as a legendary character like Big Boss from Metal Gear Series, who was developed over multiple games. I'm not saying he surpasses Big Boss or anything, but he's just as well written. This makes me even more curious to see how I'll feel revisiting the second game, considering those who've played it know what happens there and the immense emotional impact it carries. Plus, in the remake of The Last of Us, just like in the remastered version, they brought back the incredible scenes with director and voice actor commentary about every moment in the game. It's fascinating to play through everything this way, where instead of just watching the scenes normally, you can dive into the behind the scenes details and hear how each moment was created. It's a nice touch for replayability. Additionally, the game includes a vast amount of extra content, such as the making of for both the original game and the remake, besides the DLCs, along with concept art that is simply stunning. I remember watching the making of the original during the remaster era, on a day when the internet went down, and it was an amazing experience. It's impressive to see how the game was made week by week, how they dreamed of the 60 frames per second but had to adapt to the PlayStation 3 hardware, and how they managed to create that incredible visual quality on a console with less than 300 megabytes of RAM. The effort poured into this project is astonishing and truly inspiring. I highly recommend checking out the TV series. A worthy adaptation? Speaking so much about the story, many of you might be wondering, what about the HBO series? Is it better to watch it than playing the game? Especially since the games focus on the history, right? Well, I'll be straight. Never! The TV series is extremely weak. It tries to stay faithful but fails to capture the essence. Monotonous, with changes from the series compared to the game that were absolutely all for the worse. No Spores, no Bill interacting with Ellie. Pascal's Joe is at most acceptable, but very out of character. Bella Ramsey Ellie doesn't convince, even though she's a good actress. It doesn't convince, and I couldn't endure it. I stopped with 2 or 3 episodes left. One day I surely will go back to finish it. But in my personal opinion, I don't see any reason for such hype around the series. I see much more value in the Fallout series, which was pure gold. And the reason isn't because the Last of Us series is very faithful, while Fallout created something new that surprised everyone. No, it's because one is well made and enjoyable to watch, and the other isn't. And I'm not talking about cinematography here, I'm talking about script. The Last of Us series isn't faithful to the game. Saying that disregards a whole bunch of things the game has that the series doesn't. Just the absence of spores alone strips a billion layers of personality from the universe of the series. I don't see the Last of Us universe on the TV show. I can't see it. Bring me back the spores. I know, it's an adaptation, it's not to be 100% faithful. But I don't care when I don't even feel like I'm watching The Last of Us, and that's only my opinion. Don't be angry with me. You can comment your opinion on the commentaries. I'm fine with you loving the series. Actually, talk to me. Why you love this series? Why you love a TV show? I know I'm a minority here, but that's solely my opinion here. So, in the conclusion, The Last of Us still hold up as an incredible game after more than 10 years of industry growth? Absolutely. If you've never played it, you should give it a try. Even if you already know the story or have seen gameplay from back in the day. But if you've played it multiple times and it's still fresh in your memory, I recommend saving the remake for later, when you feel nostalgic about playing it again. It's a game that, more than a decade later, it still pulses with life, even it feels a bit dated due to the scope of 2 generations ago. It's an exciting and very captivating game, with its characters, story, and even the gameplay, once you get more accustomed to it. Honestly, it's a 10 out of 10 game. Regarding the remake, as a remake, I couldn't rate it higher than a 7, at best. It's like I said, it's a premium remaster. About the game itself, it certainly has fewer stories issues than Part 2, and is much more polished in this specific topic. While Part 2 takes risk and succeeds in many areas but stumbles in others. We'll have a video solely discussing Part 2, stay tuned. Its story and moral dilemma, especially in the ending, make you reflect deeply at the end of the journey, even if you completed it countless times. It always hits differently. My name is Rick Coates, and my channel is about my experiences with video games, which might overlap with yours too. Leave a comment about what these games means to you and whether you plan to revisit. My ID, PSN ID, gamertag and friend code from Switch are appearing on the screen for those who want to follow me. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel and share to engage with us here. And remember, above all else, whether you eat or play or drink or whatever you do, do it all for the glory of God. Thanks. See you next time.